survey peoples. Just wanted to welcome you to Module 3. I usually try to set it up or turn it on, I should say, each module, new module, the night before it's scheduled to go, but I totally forgot yesterday. I have a lot personal stuff going on, and I needed the weekend to just be like zoned out, so I was a little too zoned out. So, Module 3 is now turned on. This is your introduction. I read through everything from Module 2 today. So there are comments on some of your stuff. If you're not sure about what my comments mean, or if I didn't give enough comments, and you have a question, feel free to get in touch with me by email. So now we are going on to the Romans. I should say a little bit about the papers. It's a really complicated issue, and I think some of you didn't dig quite into the intricacies of the problem and thinking through what would happen if they were given back, what happens to everything else. That's a big consideration by a lot of people. But I think all of you now have at least begun to think about the issue of how museums get their artifacts. How do they get their materials, especially for the periods that are covered in this class. Usually with artists, we have a paper trail of who owned the paintings prior to a museum getting them, which is known as the provenance. But in this time period with like tiny little sculptures and doodads, a lot of things walk off and are not properly notated in a provenance of not just stealing, but actually, purchasing it through a dealer, a reputable dealer or whatever. And for some of you, I noted that if materials are all, or if artifacts are all meant to go back to the place of origin, what happens if those places are under current war? Syria is a mess. And I feel for the people of Syria, but ISIS is destroying anything that was there that was not from the time of Muhammad. So if we sent all the stuff that the Louvre has, Naram Sin would probably be gone, Gudea would be gone, the Standard of Ur would be gone. So there are some considerations like that too, about, what happens if there's an unstable political situation and you're sending incredibly important artifacts back to those places. So I'm not saying that about Greece. This is a really thorny and difficult issue because of that Firmin. And yes, the British say that that was legal, but there are a lot of people who don't. So some of you were saying like, well, he got that Firmin, so he was able to do it. But there are a lot of people who say that that was not a legitimate document for taking of the sculptures. Anyway, enough of that, but it is a very, very important issue, and one that many museums are wrestling with. And I'll be probably talking about this a little bit more in my public history courses going forward, because public history is about how do we remember the past, how do we present the past to the public, and I'll be teaching Intro to Public History this fall, HIS 1115. There's still spaces in there. And we'll be doing other things about exhibitions, not just art exhibitions, but we will be talking a little bit more about this repatriation issue. So if you're interested in that, you might want to look up that course if you want to make a schedule change. Anyway, on to the Romans. I love the Romans because they're very, very practical. Where the Greeks were like, we have to like make this staircase turn because from far away, or bend because from far away, then it'll look straight. The Romans are like, what? Like, they're like, make a concrete mold, pour the concrete in, and slap the sucker up. They do the same thing with the columns. The Greeks did columns in chunks and made sure they measured, and they slid them on a metal pole and then put marble around to make it look like a total one piece. But the Romans are like, make a column mold, pour the concrete in, put it up. So they find shortcuts, but that isn't to say that they don't have a sense of proportion or artistic aesthetics. It's just that they got an empire to run and they got to get the stuff built. So concrete was a very important development by the Romans because they could do it anywhere. They didn't have to have a marble quarry. on site in the desert of, like, they found towns in Syria, which I just mentioned. Dura Europos is a Roman town that's been sacked by ISIS, but it was the Romans. They're like, we're going to build a bath here, we're going to build a forum here, we're going to build temples here, all because we have concrete. Let's go. So the Romans have about them a very practical emphasis on let's get stuff built. But even within that, there is propaganda. There is the messaging that the Romans, everything they make, everything they put up, it's got some kind of message for the people. And whether that be the emperors or the patricians who start out our first movement of what we call verism, which is extreme realism, which is why I felt like it was so important for me to explain idealism that was embedded in naturalism, because a lot of you were saying that the boxer was the most naturalistic because he looked real. Real is different from naturalism. Realism, as we will see with the Republican heads, the statues of the family members, the patriarchs of the wealthy patrician families in Rome, they got every wrinkle, they got every mole, they've got every just every line on the face, because that connoted wisdom, but it also connoted a longevity of the family. So age was important then, but then we have our first emperor, Augustus, who comes and changes everything. But he's also one of the best rulers Rome ever has, and sets them on a trail for like 100 years of peace, even when his descendants of his family line become emperors, and they're a bunch of nutcases. Caligula, ever heard of him? Nutbag. Nero, wackadoo. So, but Augustus sets Rome on a path of just major expansion and power that is unrivaled until we get into the Middle Ages, and really later in the West, Middle Ages. So that's, I'm going to end up like giving you the whole history of Rome here if I don't stop. And it's already been 7 minutes. So you know what to do. The discussion boards for module 3 for this module are split, but I decided to do it for 4 also because module 2's Greek forum was just, I almost couldn't keep up. It was tough. I kept up with it, but it's just too much. So it will be split in half. That's getting set up now. Module 3, you don't have to worry about finding it. You're already put in. So when you click the module link or the discussion board link in the module 3, it'll take you right to your group. You don't have to wait for anything. 2 learning journals per module, not on the same day, not on the last day. Not saying it again. Just said it again, but I'm not saying it again after that. All right, questions, problems, email me, gmckay@mcdaniel.edu. On to the Romans.